At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.
All things Hawkeyes, your all-access pass. From courtside to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by DePaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
Ever since I've been watching Audi in college, though, I mean, she doesn't really have a bad game. I don't think anybody's really shut her down. So you got to just try to do the best you can and get the rebound when she does happen to miss, but pay a lot of attention to everybody else that can kill you.
Going to be a lot to pay attention to over in Ames on Wednesday night for the Cy-Hawk women's basketball game. I say it every year, but this one maybe more than most seems like this might be the most anticipated Cy-Hawk women's game that we've had since last year, at least. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks. We've got Owen Sebring, Mike Howell, and David Eickholt joining us in the studio today. Erica spinning on the ones and twos over at the director's booth. We've got Anna training, hopefully going to light us up on Friday. So for today's show, first off, we're going to tee it off with Pin Seekers. We're going to talk about the women's game first before we get into the men's Cy-Hawk game, which comes on Thursday. David, I want to hear some honest assessments because you follow this team closer than just about anybody, I think. Maybe I'd say that for both the women's and men's teams. But for the women's Hawkeye team, first off, just give us an assessment of what you've seen for the first month of the season.
I mean, I think they're better than I thought they would be. I think that's the big thing. Like, I thought they'd be borderline top 25, maybe top 20, but this is looking like a very legitimate top 10 to top 15. I think a couple reasons behind it. One, I think Chit Chat Wright's been better than I think any of us could have anticipated. I had high hopes for her. But just even the way she's shooting the three ball, like that was my big, I don't want to say criticism, but my big worry. Because when you look at last year, she hit 43 three-pointers on the season. And then you look at who's Iowa had in the past, right? Caitlin Clark. They have Lucy Olson. They have these sharp shooting point guards. Even Kathleen Doyle ended up being a really good shooter near the end of her career. So, I mean, you have to go back to, I think, Sam Logic to really find somebody that was not good, good from the field at the point guard position. Sure. So I don't want to say it starts with Chit Chat Right, but that's a big reason why they've elevated. But then I think you look at the pieces and how they fit. Like, Layla Hayes is exactly who I thought she'd be after we saw her in the summer during the summer preview. Yep. She's looking like she fits in there nicely. And then, look, Ava Hyen had to be the easiest breakout player of all time, right? But even I'm still surprised at how far of a leap she has taken. She looks like a legitimate all Big Ten caliber talent right now. But this is going to be the real test of kind of where this team lines up, because I think there's a case that this is the best team Bill Fennelly's ever had, too.
Wow.
Like, I really like this Iowa State team. I know Iowa fans are going to kind of cringe at hearing that. Watch them play. Yeah. Like, Audi Crooks has been, I'm talking player of the year caliber through this early season. They're deep at every position. They've been shooting the ball very effectively. And then to go back to Iowa, I mean, Taylor McCabe's easily playing the best basketball for her career on both sides. I think the defense has taken a step forward. I have a couple worries here and there. One's probably the youth of the team. I mean, the youngest team since 2012. And then you kind of look at, do they have enough three-point shooters? I talked about Chit Chat Right and how she's elevated her game. Taylor McCabe. But can Kylie Feuerbach step up and make some threes? Addie Deal has also showcased herself. Will she have the confidence to go out there and do that? I think the answer is yes. But, I think this is an absolutely loaded Big Ten conference. And on top of that, I'll ask you two. Tell yourself 10 years ago about where Big Ten women's basketball would be compared to every other conference in America. You're talking like they're probably sixth or I almost said 6'7". They're probably in that sixth range, though, right? And now I think it's undisputably they are the number one conference in women's basketball.
And it certainly has been helped by adding the West Coast teams. I mean, getting Judy Watkins in there, UCLA is awesome. I mean, Oregon and Washington are like, right now, maybe not like elite contenders, but like solid Big Ten teams. And so you've got the Big Ten playing at elite level. The one thing that, as much as I love Audi Crooks and I love Bill Fennelly and what they do there at Iowa State, the one thing that like makes me hesitant to totally crown them right now is that their schedule so far has been pretty weak. They've got a nice win over Indiana, who's a solid team. But outside of that, like, yes, Audi Crooks has been dominating her opponents. She had, 47 points in less than 3 quarters the other, or no, she had 30 points in less than 3 full quarters the other day.
I think she had like 19 minutes or something like that. I mean, she's just ridiculous.
And her 47.9, I think, came within like 21. I mean, her numbers are astronomical, but they really have not played a quality opponent yet, outside of maybe Indiana.
So let me throw something to you, and I've started to really analyze this matchup today. That's what I was doing before I got here. There's a certain type of post player that's given Audi Crooks trouble throughout the past couple of years, and it's the long, athletic players that don't foul. I think of Cameron Brink first and foremost, because even Audi Crooks at that time was incredibly dominant. I do think Cameron Brink did foul out in their matchup, but Audi was an absolute shell of herself. Now, again, that's a couple of years ago. She's
was a
evolved her
freshman,
game.
yeah.
She's a very good. She can shoot the ball too. Like you can't hang in the paint and wait for her to go double fake over both shoulders, then turn back and fade away. Like if you let her spot up, she can knock it down. But then you think about Ava Hayden, how much length she has if she can stand straight up. And then, if she gets in foul trouble, you throw in Layla Hayes, who kind of embraces more of that physicality. I'm very, very curious how Jan Jensen and her staff are going to play Audi. But again, this Iowa State team is more than just Audi. They have pieces. But you're right. I think it's just as big of a test for Iowa State as is Iowa. Certainly. And if you look at the net right now, there's a reason why Iowa's number 9 and Iowa State's number 15 right now.
Yeah. It seems like the last couple of years, the Cy-Hawk game especially has given Audi trouble. Like Sharon Goodman 2 years ago played great against Audi Crooks. Last year, Addie O'Grady played well against Audi Crooks. Like it seems like this game has not been as great as Audi has looked in these games. She has not looked her 100% best in the Hawkeye game. And so this is the first time that we're going to see, like, can Audi do that against Iowa, and especially against, I think that Ava Hayden is the kryptonite that Iowa needs for Audi Crooks.
That's how I remember the game too last year, but I went back and looked at her stats against Iowa. She had 31 and 10 and 3 fouls.
You know why? Here's why, though, too, because, again, like, she was the entire offense, especially in that fourth quarter. Like, they made the adjustment where Hannah Stolke was fronting her more so they weren't allowing her to catch the ball deep in the post, and it's because, again, why Iowa State took a step back last season. They had no way they could shoot the three at all. So in that fourth quarter, you went back and rewatched it, or looked at the stats. All they did was try to throw the ball to Audi because everybody else was scared to shoot at that time. So now if they have perimeter shooters.
And this year they have 3 shooters who are shooting over 50% from 3 points. So that's a lot different. And she mentioned kind of that Jan Jensen did today at her press availability. She was like, no one's really stopped at Audi Crooks. You can slow her down, or do you make sure her teammates don't beat you and just kind of, let her do her thing? That was one way to kind of attack the Cyclones.
And I think she even said that in the postgame after last year's matchup, is that she just said, like, we were going to let Audi get hers and hope that we could stop the rest of them, and that's basically what they did. And I kind of forgot about that they had Hannah fronting her, and just, like, she got a few of those, like, tip balls where they tried to lob it inside, and Hannah's got hops, and she's got a long arm reach, wingspan, and she can get up there and get those entry passes.
I'll be curious if that's what they do, if they try to have Ava just on the backside, and then they kind of play Hannah in a position where she's going to be able to not completely front her, but Hannah's also athletic enough to where she could get some deflections in there. What if they throw Kylie Fierbach in that kind of high-low action, or maybe in that mid-zone, because we know how active her hands are and how good of a defensive player she is, and she's got enough length to at least cause some trouble for guards if they really don't see an actual angle to get the ball into Audi.
We do have some, I want to talk about injury updates with this Hawkeye team right now, because it sounds like you've got some information on this, possibly, David. But Chit Chat Wright, who has missed some time this year, she's played, I think, 6 games this season after coming back from an injury. Then she had to leave the Rutgers game on Sunday with another injury. Or was it just a re-aggravation situation?
They kept her out for precautionary reasons, more so because she got hit in the head again. Yeah. And they did classify as an upper body injury. But I think if you go back and see the play where she actually got hurt, we all know what the upper body injury is, right? It was pretty obvious. But, yeah, Jan did mention that it sounds like she's going to play, and then I think you kind of get that stability more at the point. Look, Taylor Stremel, I thought, performed very adequately. I think she's taking a step forward in her game. Addie Deal at times just had to take over the point guard. But it's so hard to throw in 2 potentially combo guards just to kind of make up for that and not have a pure point in there. Look, Chit Chat Right, you can play her off the ball, but, like, it's like saying Bennett Sturts isn't a complete one. Like, we all know Bennett starts as a 1, they just have the capability and the shooting ability to play them in that off-guard role.
Yeah. And then we have Emily Rodriguez and Tegan Mulaney are the other question marks, and sounds like Hawkeyes are probably going to be doing without both of those players on Wednesday.
That's the way they made it sound today, yeah. Again, they've only classified it as day-to-day. I'm still not really sure what happened with Emily Rodriguez, and I think Tegan, again, this is speculation, but I think it's just re-aggravation of what happened. And a rough year for her, because I do think Tegan has a really nice upside. I think that she's done some really good things. She did some good things last year. It was not shooting the ball extremely well, but, I mean, you're at enough women's games. Mitch is to, like, she's the first player out there every single warm-ups. Like, she's clearly putting in the work. It just – something hasn't completely clicked to transition her game from practice and shoot-around and pregame to the actual product on the court. But we did see her in her first couple games last year. I think she had 15 at one point. She had 18. Like, she was hitting threes. She can make some things happen, and she's a really good rebounder as well.
And then Rodriguez, man, I mean, another transfer that hasn't quite been to the height of what Chit Chat Wright has done so far, but Emily's been great in the time that we've had a chance to see her on the floor.
I think she's one of the best shot creators on the team. Now, is it always going to result in a good shot?
Yeah.
That's kind of my big question mark at this
Good
point.
point.
There have been some questionable ones, but, I mean, you go back to, I think it was her debut or her second game, what she had, like 18 points, and she went like 7 and 9 shooting, and you saw how aggressive she was, and you love that. I do think the one big thing that she needs to continue to piece together, and Janice said it, she has to buy into the defensive side of the floor. She has to continue to learn the system, get comfortable in the system. But from an effort standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, from a 3-level scorer standpoint, from somebody who doesn't shy away, I think that's massive, because what was one of the big things from last year's Iowa team? But again, I think with the right draw, they could have been a potential Sweet 16 team. They probably weren't going beyond that.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm seeing this team as potential Elite 8 with the right, with the right matchups. I think it's a Sweet 16 caliber team. But when they got in a panic, what did they do? They gave the ball back to Lucy Olsen. So Lucy go make something happen. Like, everybody got upset about Lucy and her inflated shots at times. But then you watch the film and you're like, nobody's wanting to shoot the basketball. Yeah. Somebody has to shoot the basketball. Emily's willing to do that, and she's fearless, and she's a shot creator. So I think from a point guard perspective, like, again, I think if Lucy Olsen had one more year of eligibility, she's kind of breathing that sigh of relief because she doesn't have to create every shot for the team. But now you have Emily Rodriguez, you have Addie Deal. Heck, you have Ava Hayden. If you get the ball to her on the on the elbow jumper, she'll take that, and she's made a couple of them. She'll take it inside, and Ava's been a pretty good passer, I think, out of the block too. So I think there's just more offensive versatility despite having a younger team, and I think Emily Rodriguez is really blending in well with that.
Yeah, you mentioned a younger team, and that's what I think a lot of people are on. Even though Iowa State, you could say, I mean, they're not exactly young, but it still is a lot of like juniors. That junior class for Iowa State is so good. But today, Jan Jensen was asked about this young team and how that might be the Achilles heel when they go up against a Beer and Cyclone squad.
That's the interesting thing in this team. We're just so much younger than we're older. And that's going to be, I think, a key point is to really how quickly can our sophomores and freshmen settle, right? And that includes Journey Houston. Journey's been playing some really key minutes for us. So we're gonna see. And I think that's the beauty of this game is to have a game like this at this point in the season. Because I still don't really know how good we are yet, right? I think I love what I'm seeing, but the schedule has afforded some good games, but Baylor probably thinks they weren't as good as they should have been, right? We're looking at the in-state rivals of Northern Iowa thinks playing a lot better than they were a while ago, and that's the trajectory. You want to be better at that point in your season, but I think this will give us a good marker. And I think we probably both need that to really, because we respect each other so much, right? Not that we don't respect everybody before, but I think as coaching staffs, it's like, yeah, we need this type of game to kind of give us a measuring stick, because later, right, in the tournament plays or in your conference games when you're fighting for positioning, which leads to seeds into the NCAA, hopefully, you gotta see where you're at in these type of games. So I'm really hopeful that we can just go out and just have a really good competitive mindset.
David, you've touched on something already that was a topic of discussion between Mike and I during the last Eye on the Hawks podcast, where we talked about, last week I think they were ranked 12th in the country. This week the Hawks 11th. Yep. And Mike and I were like, do we see this as really the 12th best team in the country right now? And we were kind of like, I'm not really sure. And maybe a lot of that doubt between us comes from the youth, I guess, on the team, that we're still just like, gosh, this team full of like freshmen and sophomores, like, are they really like the 12th best team in the country? Like, I don't know yet. But that maybe is what we're going to find out on Wednesday, like if this team can be that, because it's still, like Jan was saying, we're still just a little bit up in the air on like what actually this team is made of.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Also, by the way, I'm really happy that Journey Houston got a shout out in that, because that's one player I probably should have mentioned.
She's played so well.
Because look, people forget how highly recruited she was, and that unfortunate knee injury that cut her junior season short. She committed to Iowa so early that I feel like the hype died off to a certain extent, because they got Addie Deal and they got Layla Hayes, right? It's quite the freshman haul. So Journey Houston's been terrific, and I only see her role continuing to increase. She just fits in perfectly, mature player. I'm with both of you. I think it's a top 15 team. I don't know about top 12. But the other side of it, too, is I need to see some of these top teams begin to emerge, because I feel like in women's basketball specifically, I feel like there's a clear gap between the top 5 and the top 10 for most years, and that's been something that people have had to overcome. But I'd also point to this. Like right now, what would you say Iowa is in the Big Ten? I mean, right now we're saying they're 11th in the country. I'd say they're probably 4th or 5th in the Big Ten, and that's probably also what I'm thinking. Like, is Iowa going to be able to go to UCLA? Are they going to be able to go to USC? How about in, 2 weeks when they go to go take on number 1 UConn? How is the team going to compete in that? I think also part of it, too, is Iowa's in such a unique circumstance, guys, because most places they go, they're the favorite. Like, they're without a doubt like one of the most known brands in women's college basketball, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Like, people know Iowa, obviously, because Caitlin Clark, Lisa, whatever you want to credit to, right? I mean, the games that Iowa has won already against some of these other teams, they're in neutral sites. But are they really neutral sites? Like, I get it. It's not your home gym. This is going to be the first real hostile environment that this team's played in. So I think depending on how Iowa – like, if Iowa goes into Ames – and by the way, who's going to hate Iowa more than Ames? Right? That's another site. Maybe besides South Carolina and LSU. Maybe UConn's in there. But outside of that, if Iowa goes in there and beats Iowa State, or if they just compete for 40 minutes – take it down the stretch. If they lose on a buzzer beater, if they lose by 3 or 4, but you can tell they belong in that elite category, then I think we're going to say, hey, you know what? Iowa may have dropped a game, but this looks like a top 10 team in the country. It's certainly all about how they perform when they are not in their home or neutral environments. Because, again, you're going to tell me that they went down to Florida and they weren't the favorite team in Florida? Like, you just listen to the crowd's reactions during the games they were down there. Everybody was cheering for the Hawkeyes, and I do think that plays a factor as well.
One thing I forgot about sorry, do you have something, Mike?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask, because I posed this question to you about a month ago after like 4 or 5 games, and I wanted to see what David thought. It's different with the injuries that we've seen, but when healthy, who is Iowa's best player?
It's got to be Ava Hyen, right?
That's what Owen said, I think.
That's what I said a month ago,
At the time, before she got hurt, I said Chit Chat right, just because she made everything go. And I guess to start the season, I thought she played so much better than I was expecting, and maybe that, like,
100%.
I was like, oh wow, she's the one that makes. It's kind of like Lucy last year at the point, just a little different because she was score first, and Chit Chat, Jan has to tell her to take shots and stuff. But I just kind of thought that first month of the season, I was like, wow, she's playing so well that she might be the best player.
But after what Ava's done, I feel like over the last month has solidified that even more. Like, man, she just is so quick, just so comfortable with the ball in her hands. Like you said, distributes it so well. Like, she just really is the centerpiece of this team right now.
I agree. And also, I think there was so much pressure on Chit Chat, and whether or not she understood that or embraced it or dropped it off, brushed it off, I'm not sure. But, like, the level of point guard play that Iowa's had for how long has been beyond elite.
Almost a decade.
Like even I even go beyond that, because you got Sam Logic, who was Big Ten Player of the Year. You had Kathleen Doyle. You got Caitlin. You got Lucy. Like, there's a lot of pressure and prestige that comes with playing point guard at the University of Iowa, I feel like. So for Chit Chat to kind of live up and I think overcome those expectations or just be better than what people thought she would be is good. I think you have to say Ava Hyen at this point. And it's so bad, too, because I don't want to overshadow Hannah Stolke, because what Hannah Stolke has meant to the foundation of Iowa's women's basketball, and who has had one of the toughest roles, by the way, throughout the last couple of years, being an undersized 5
Yeah.
going against Camila Cardoso and all these other I'm talking like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". I mean, monsters in the post and different types of players. Now, look, they got to guard Hannah too, right? But Hannah's willingness to do that, I don't want to like overshadow her, but I just don't see how you look at the first 9 games right now and think it's not Ava Hyen. Like it has to be Ava Hyen, because I'm telling you, I said it earlier, I really believe she is playing like an all Big Ten first team caliber player at this point.
Certainly.
She's been a rebounding machine. Athletically, she's doing something different. And I'll give a little shout out to former Iowa coach and now head coach of Florida Gulf Coast, Raina Harmon, because I talked to her once Ava got to campus during the first media day, and she said, one of the first things I wrote down when I scouted Ava was she runs the floor like Megan Gustafson.
Yeah.
And we know how great of a rim runner Megan Gustafson was at that 5. And I'd even go say Ava's probably a little bit more athletic than Megan is, at least at the time during her Iowa career. And to get that sort of praise and to live up to it and just explode her sophomore year, it's like she's being so efficient. She's rebounding. She's passing. The other thing is it's what you don't see. It's the screens. It's the she wins the battle of the possession before the ball is in her hands. And I don't think I've watched her one time this year where she gets the ball in her hands and she goes, deer in headlights, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what she's going to do the second she gets in her position. And it is almost reminiscent of Monica Sonano. Because how many times did Monica Sonano ever panic or put the ball on the floor? The answer is not many. She knew exactly what she was doing. And I think you're seeing flashes of Ava putting that together. And I think that's got to be exciting for Jan. And how about Lysandra Barrett, too? Like, I think what she's done with her position group so far, too, it's been really, really impressive.
If she were to reach first-team All-Big Ten center status in a conference where you have Lauren Betts for UCLA playing center, that would be pretty prestigious territory. One thing I think I forgot about until now was we mentioned how good the Big Ten is. I think that today I saw that they, tied a record for most teams ranked in a poll because they have
9. I just counted.
9 teams ranked right now. That's insane. You have UCLA 4, Michigan 6, Maryland 7, Iowa 11, USC 16, Ohio State 21, Washington 20, Nebraska 24, Michigan State 25, and that's not including a 10-1 Oregon team. Both Oregon and Illinois are receiving votes for the top 25 right now. Yeah, this conference is going to be a gauntlet.
It could be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
You talk about the Big Ten and the men's side wearing each other out before the NCAA tournament. I'm not going to go that far yet, but you look at the physicality in this Big Ten conference, you look at the depth of it. And I do think, though, with that being said, the extra week between the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament is absolutely critical, and that's something I think the men's team, probably the men's league, needs to actually develop. Because how many times it feels like it's almost a disadvantage for the major conferences to win their conference tournament unless you need it just to qualify for the tournament.
And then play 4 days later.
I mean, look at when
what would the TV channels air that week, though?
Iowa was the hottest team in the country. And then they lost to Richmond. The next year, Illinois was one of the hottest teams in the country. They won the Big Ten tournament conference title. They lost in the first round. There is a direct correlation between being worn out in the men's side and winning the conference and getting eliminated early. It doesn't matter how good it is. And that's why, again, I think if people didn't think that the Big Ten women's was the best conference in America, I do think come this time, maybe in April 3rd or whenever the title is, people are going to widely recognize that this was one of the most loaded leagues the sport's ever seen.
Yeah, this might be why we haven't seen a Big Ten men's champion since 2000.
I think it's 2000 or 2001, Michigan State.
Do you guys know the last time a Big Ten women's team won the national championship?
Purdue in 98 or 7?
99.
Yep.
That's crazy that both have a 25-year drought.
It is interesting.
Maryland won it, but they weren't in the Big Ten at the time.
It is crazy how long it took the Big Ten to develop, at least on the women's side, into a basketball conference. Megan Gustafson was the first Big Ten women's player to win a Naismith Award.
Really?
She broke the glass ceiling for Big Ten players.
See,
that was one of my first columns I ever wrote covering women's basketball. Iowa women's basketball was how Megan, when she got it, it was going to lift the conference as a whole. And again, people talk about the founding people of Big Ten women's basketball, what's helped ascend the sport. Megan Gustafson laid the foundation for Caitlin Clark just to take the elevator and just take it to a completely different level.
True.
I feel bad because 10 years ago I'd watch the Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament if I was in it, but I would not pay attention throughout I would just pay attention to the men. But it's gotten so good, at least in the Big Ten, that I don't see myself not watching anytime soon, right?
Yeah. I do have one last question for Dave before we transition to the men's side. Addie Deal, of course, coming in. I mean, I've been wondering so far if we want to compare Addie to Ava in terms of progress, because obviously last year Ava started slow, really started to come on around Big Ten tournament time, and then she's turned into what she is this year. Is that maybe what we're seeing a little bit out of Addie Deal, like a little bit of a slow start, finding her footing a little bit, maybe develop later in the year, or what have you seen out of her in the last few games?
I mean, I think she's going to be more effective and play more of a role than Ava did at the end of the year.
Okay.
Like it was kind of fine to me because people started freaking out about Addie after like 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, do you know how rare it is for even a 5-star, unless you're like the elite, to come in and just dominate right away? Like, that's why I've always said people didn't pay enough attention to what Caitlin did right when she first got to Iowa. Like, and again, it was partially because COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody was actually at the games. Nobody was able to watch. Those type of productive numbers are just non-existent. And the other part is Addie doesn't need to dominate.
Yeah.
With the team that she's got around her and in Jan's system, like, she really doesn't need to have the ball in her hands all the time to make an impact. I think, and this is why I wrote my scouting report, and I've talked to Brandon Clay, who does 24/7 Sports' rankings and client service, like very respected in women's recruiting circles. Addie has one of the highest floors in the entire 25 recruiting class. Okay. I don't know how good she's going to be, but like, whatever her ceiling is, she's going to get to it because she's about the right things. And I think you look at her game, I don't know how many elite traits she has. Like, Ava has a couple elite traits, but I couldn't tell you what Addie really struggles with. She's pretty solid across the board, and you need those type of players to win big-time games. Like, she's a good passer. We've seen her shooting range already on display. Yep. She's hit her mid-range. She can dribble. She can defend. She's active. She's conditioned. Like, she gets after the rebounding the basketball. She just needs reps. I think she's going to play more of a factor than Ava did, but, like, it's so hard for me not to put too many expectations on this team because if you remember, Jan talked about need patience with the group, right, over Big Ten Media Days. But then you think about McKenna Volichko next year, a junior Ava Hayden, a sophomore Layla Hayes, Emily Rodriguez, Chit-Chat Wright. They lose a couple of critical pieces, no doubt. It's so hard not to see the ceiling of where this team's going to go. And I'll tell you, if Iowa makes a Final Four or however it may be over the next 3 or 4 years, Addie Deal is going to be a significant part of it. Like, that's how much I believe in her. But at the same time, I think it's unfair to go out there and expect her to drop 12 to 14 points a game in Big Ten play. If she goes out there and gets to 7 or 8, she takes care of the basketball, she rebounds, and is a critical component on both ends of the floor and a good rotational player, you sign up for that 10 out of 10 times.
Yep. Can't beat Caitlin right away, who was scoring 25 points or whatever in her first games out there. Yeah. Well, we want to thank Pin Seekers for helping us tee this thing off. We're going to transition now to the Iowa men's team, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Cyhawk game. Of course, the Iowa men coming off that win over Maryland on Saturday. The Hawkeyes pretty convincing. Again, did it end up being a quad 4 win for the Hawkeyes?
I believe last time I checked, I believe it did. Isn't it crazy?
I was
at 4
when I looked that up, but no, it was a good game. Were you at the game, David?
Yeah. So Sean and Elliot took care of the on-site coverage, and I did some stuff post-game from behind the scenes, and I had to cover the women, I believe, later that night too. And that was the ruck. They won by about $1 billion or something close to that. But I'll tell you, the crowd's starting to come around a little bit more on the men's.
I was going to mention that.
Team.
Yeah.
It's without a doubt. It's not perfect, but the other part is I think you have a coach and a coaching staff who understand what's needed to get to that next level they want to do, and he's all about trying to get the fans' respect and have them buy in the process. So I think Ben has a great combination of understanding that, being patient with it, but also being aggressive and trying to put together a quality product on the floor. And I don't know about you two. I think the team's a little bit better than I thought they'd be at this point in the year. I don't think Maryland's good at all.
No, not really.
Frankly, maybe they come around the end of the year. And I was not freaked out after the Michigan State game because if you haven't seen it, Michigan State's killing everybody right now. They beat Kentucky by double digits, beat North Carolina by double digits. But this men's team, I'll tell you, man, like they know who they are. There are certain things they need to change, but from a media perspective and something that gives me confidence in Ben moving forward outside of his resume and everything like that. You know, I like to overread in press conferences and everything. I do, I have my own little show about that. But Ben is so transparent with the media, and he has such a great self-awareness that if he can flat out tell the media and he flat out tells the fans, like, yeah, I think this is why it didn't work, this is what we need to improve on. If you're that transparent about it, that's going to buy you more time and more resources and more support because you're willing to have the self-awareness to embrace who you are, recognize what needs changed, and then go out there and try to change it.
Yeah.
I think just compared to, and I'm not saying the last staff did this, but like you look at other programs, lack of transparency and lack of self-awareness and lack of reflection get people to buy out.
Yep.
I think the staff this early on has done everything right to try to get the fan base and to try to improve themselves.
One thing I said, I think, before the season even started, I believe when Elliot Clough was sitting in that chair, was that Ben McCollum and the Hawkeyes, they were going to some games that they shouldn't win, and they weren't going to lose any games that they weren't supposed to. And I feel like that's what we've seen so far, and I still feel confident in saying that like they're not going to go out there and lay an egg against UMass Lowell. They might not win these games against Purdue or Illinois or even Michigan or even Nebraska, who's playing really well right now.
Bryce Sanford's being one of the headliners for them right now. And
Exactly.
I'll tell you, Fred Hoiberg right now is saving his job because we all know that he was on the hot seat going into the year. Still might be, still very early, but they're playing like the Big Ten's loaded again. Just like the women's. It's a very, very good conference, but I think you summed it up well. They're going to win some games they shouldn't. They're going to lose some games they shouldn't. But again, I'll go back to even the last presser that Ben McCollum did. He was so reflective about it, but what did he say twice that really captured everybody's attention? It's not okay. I'm going to keep telling my players that.
Yeah.
We can grow from this, but it's not okay. He doesn't just shell it and be like, oh, look, they lost one. How do we bounce back? It's remember the feeling. Go out there and improve. Make something happen. You don't want to feel like this. It's not okay to lose.
Yeah.
Go out there and impose your will and go out there and get the next win. And that's why I think we saw so early in that Maryland game. Now, again, the quality and opponent and the circumstances were different. But if Iowa doesn't respond right away, then we're talking a completely different story. It doesn't matter who it's against. They went out there and did what they were exactly supposed to do.
Yeah.
They went out there and punched him in the mouth.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same mindset that we've seen out of Kurt Signetti over at Indiana with football. It's just like that he wanted to come out there and be a winner right away, and he instilled that confidence in those guys from the very start, and that's what we've seen out of them now that they're going as top seed in the CFP polls. And I feel like there is definitely a difference between saying
Not as
that.
cocky as Strignetti.
There is a difference between.
I love Kurt Signetti.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
He's a complete psycho, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, that's what I think SVP said. That I thought they hired a crazy man, and he might still be.
Yeah, he might still be crazy. Let me ask you this, because I guess one of the concerning parts about the Maryland, and maybe this was just a bad officiating game, was 27 foul calls. I think, I still have some concerns about the size of the team when it goes up to the Big Ten play. Will they be out rebounded every other game? I did like what I saw from, Tate Sage played awesome on Saturday.
I really liked Tate Sage.
Some of the younger guys, I didn't know if they'd play much. I'm encouraged by that. Howard as well. But, is that a concern at all, just the size? And are they just going to, Falgaris fouled out. They had, on Saturday, he played 9 minutes.
I want to see Fulgaris bounce back. He needs to be the second best player on this team. I really believe that because he's the conference player of the year. We saw the flashes early on, right?
Yeah.
And shooting translates. I think he's going to get out of that. And I'll say it. I mean, I won't get fined, so I can say it. Fulgaris got screwed by the officials in that game. There was
I was in
no
the stands, so I couldn't actually tell the foul calls, but it did seem pretty ticky-tacky.
They were bad. Even on replay, they were bad. It's one of those things to where, again, I think even both coaches were frustrated because there's no flow. I thought Ben McCollum, I thought he was going to get his first tech as Iowa's head coach in that game. There were a couple times he was losing it, and probably rightfully so. Iowa's going to foul. They're okay with fouling, but you have to be smart about it. And the thing that I'm interested in, trust me, I think Iowa's rebounding was my biggest red flag going into the season. And now my second biggest red flag is very similar to the women's team last year. Do they have a second shot creator? Because when things go down the wire, what have they done throughout these first several games? They give the ball to Bennett.
Back to Bennett.
Bennett makes something happen because he's Bennett Sturts, that second team All-American, probably potential this year. The thing that's interesting to me, and I'll just go back to Ben McCollum's words, is after the Michigan State game, we asked him about the rebounding. He said, I didn't think it was too much about the size. He said it was more about the willingness to box out and the perimeter guys are being them. And he didn't think Michigan State was too much bigger than Iowa was. It was just, at times, Michigan State was more aggressive. By the way, Michigan, we did not mention as a team earlier. Michigan men's basketball, I think, is number 1 team in the country. To me, I think Iowa State's 2. Different story.
All right.
Anyway, they have to box out better. Bennett Sturtz needs to be a rebounder. The guards have to be rebounders, and Alvaro Folgueras has to be a rebounder.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, because again, I love what I see out of him, especially from a passing perspective. I didn't think he was as good of a passer as he's been, but Iowa needs to find a second shot creator, and they need to find a way to box out all 5 positions to just give themselves a chance. Because look, I think even if they get out rebounded, I get it. They're going to be efficient offensively most nights. They cannot give up 15, 16 offensive rebounds. That leads to 27, 28 second chance points. You're not going to win Big Ten play that way. You guys watch Big Ten play. You have to get rebounding the ball well on the first possession. Defensive rebounding rate needs to be high. You got to box out. And if you're getting a foul, make darn sure the guy shoots like 60% from the free throw line. Again, you think they were sweating about Farrell Payne going to the free throw line? I don't think so.
26 more free throws Maryland shot than Iowa the other night. Just insane numbers. It is an interesting parallel you draw between maybe last year's Iowa women's team and this year's Iowa men's team, that Bennett Sturtz is kind of that Lucy Olsen role where it's like they know how good this person is. They know they have professional level talent, and they're just going to be relying on this person. And so who's going to be that next person to step up? Alvaro Folgueras is showing that, or at least we thought that Alvaro Folgueras would be that, and he still has potential to step into that role. But right now, Iowa just doesn't have that other clear-cut person who could be that. Maybe it's Cooper Koch. Maybe it's Tate Sage. Like, both have played a little better than what I was expecting out of them so far.
Cooper Koch, that's a good mention, because I don't know how many people I guess would have put him on their starting lineup heading into the season, but he was, and he's the only holdover for the Fran McCaffrey era. But I feel like he's definitely earned that, and he's one of those guys that you could potentially see as second or third scorer there on the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cooper's done an unbelievable job of transitioning between Iowa's old style of play and new. And no, I'm not just talking about defensively. Like, going from a motion offense to the super advanced action that they run on offense, that's not an easy thing. So for Cooper to, and even quite frankly, transform his body, he's a heck of a lot stronger. I think it's very noticeable compared to last year. So I think you got to give him the tip of the cap. And you're right. I think he was more of a sixth man, or sixth or seventh. Gosh dang it, I keep going back to that, dude. I think that was more of his role. But, I mean, we talk about Brendan Housen's not playing at all. And I think every single Iowa media member said he was going to be the starting shooting guard.
We did on our preseason one.
I think Sean Elliott and I all did as well. I think Chad Lysko did too. I mean, guys who pay attention to the team, it was always going to be Brendan Housen. But I think Cooper surprised. Tate Sage strikes me as a guy that I don't think he'll ever lead the team in scoring. But, you look at him and you look at championship makeup and mentality, everybody has a dude like that on that team. And I was thinking of Cam Manuel a lot of credit too. I thought he played really well in that second half against Maryland as well. So, again, I have my concerns with this team. I still, again, I'll bring up the shot creating. I know they could be consistent enough from three and in the rebounding department. But the three things I will 100% guarantee, there are three things I can guarantee about this team. One, if you don't play defense, you're not playing. And I do think Brendan Housen's probably giving every effort on defense. I do think that's a big reason why he's not playing. I also think his inability to showcase himself as a driver is hurting that. And Ben McCollum has said that. I thought we just need a little bit more driving action in that Michigan State game. Effort is two. Great, and I would say great perimeter defense. Iowa's defensive rotations have been incredibly crisp for installing a completely new system. I know they have guys from Drake coming over, but Alvaro has been a better defender than I thought. Cooper Koch, his jump from a defensive standpoint has been unbelievable to me. But you're right. I mean, I made the parallel, and I'll stick by it. I do think it's still an NCAA caliber team.
Oh, certainly.
I do have my concerns about them. But what wins in March, and this is what it's going to be really intriguing about coming down the stretch of things. It's point guard play, and it's defense. And I'll tell you, I think Iowa can check both those boxes.
We're going to, similar to the women's game, we're going to find out what this team is made of on Thursday night when they take on the Cyclones. And
do they have any hope?
I wouldn't say we'll find out what they're made of. I think that's a high bar.
My friend Hawkeye Mike over there is concerning me with the lack of confidence he has in the Hawkeyes in this game against Iowa State. Boy, it seems like you just think they're going to get trucked.
Oh, on Thursday, 100%. I guess it's more of a respect for Iowa State and how well they played. If you watch the game, I only watched a piece of it because I was going to the Maryland game. Second half, I watched at Stella's down in Iowa City, the Purdue-Iowa State game. So shocking that they were able to go into Mackey Arena and just beat up what was the #1 team in the country at the time. I don't know if I've been more impressed. And it's less about what Iowa can do. It's just more about, like, it's a similar, I wouldn't say similar, but it's a similar, like, talent-wise team to Michigan State. And you just saw what happened there. I think Iowa State has the opportunity to lock up Bennett Sturts with their defenders, too. So, like, if that's the case, if you're there in Hilton Coliseum and Bennett can't work his magic, how are you going to keep up with their three-point shooting, which has been off the wall the past few games?
Yeah.
I would say it's the second most impressive win of the season, the one that they just had. And the only reason why I'm hesitant to say one is because you guys saw what Michigan did in their tournament, like in week 2, where they trucked everybody by about 40 and we're putting up 110. That's probably the only reason. Again, Iowa State would be 2 on my AP ranking. I think that they're loaded. I think Tamin Lipsey is one of the toughest players in America. I think he's an outstanding point guard. I wish he'd be healthy because I'd love to see his game when he's 100% healthy. I don't think he's ever played a basketball game, it seems like, in his life at 100% health, because he's gutted through so much. I think what Otzelberger's done has been really, really impressive. I think they're going to absolutely front load on Bennett Sturts, and they're going to try to make everybody else beat them. I do think that's going to be the strategy, but at the same time, Bennett Sturts doesn't get flustered. Yeah, he struggled against Michigan State. We all know that. But again, the amount of pressure that's on that guy's shoulders for creating the offense and moving it forward, and the Ben McCollum and Bennett's teammates will tell you a big reason why they I would even say Bennett was average at best in that game was because there was no ball movement outside their first action. They weren't getting into those double screens. Everybody was sort of standing around. They were waiting for Bennett to be Bennett, and Bennett can't be Bennett if it's not even ISO ball. Nobody's even rotating in on a screen. So getting that second and third action against Iowa State is going to be critical. I understand why you went with the parallel of, like, we're going to see what this team's made of. The only way we see what they're made of is if they keep it within, like, if they're competitive entire basketball game. And if regardless, again, it's very similar to, like, the women's in this extent. If Iowa goes in there and loses by 5 and they're competitive the entire game, how do you think Iowa men's basketball fans are going to be feeling? They're going to be like, okay, this team can compete, especially when you go into that sort of hostile environment, right?
Yeah.
If Iowa goes out there and gets blown out by 20 to 25, I'm going to have the exact same reaction that I did after the Michigan State game. Hate to lose, you move on.
Still have a chance to go 11-2 into the second part of the Big Ten. And
you can't drop another game before the second part of the Big Ten, but, like, you cannot be mad if you go in there and you lose against an undisputed top 5 Iowa State team.
It's interesting. Their 2 losses so far have come in games where I'm like, I had so little confidence that I would even.
They're too. You already counted?
I'm already counting. I will say they're 2 toughest opponents. I guess I'll go in and saying so far that I have not had much confidence. This is just similar to the Michigan State game because I think that Michigan State is also a team that has Final Four potential this year. I think that the Spartans are great in spite of losing to Duke over the weekend. But I think that, Iowa's just had, like, such a tough stretch of games in that regard where they're not just playing like a number 18 team in the country. Like, their ranked games have been against, like, possible 2 top 5 teams.
These losses, if Iowa ends up losing to Iowa State, will make this team that much better in February.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to say, I wonder if playing Michigan State, gives the team more motivation and a better, like, sense of what they're going into on Thursday.
I mean, well, and again, another big takeaway that a couple of the players talked about after the Michigan State game, once they came back to Iowa City, we all talked to them, was I don't think they wanted to admit it because they made no excuses. But, again, we remember this Drake team, these players that are playing from Drake in the transfer to Iowa, that was the most hostile environment they've ever played in. That was a shell shock moment to them, especially with the Izzone right there, with how hostile the crowd is, with how Tom Izzo is. I have so much respect for Tom Izzo, but I can't watch his sideline antics anymore. It's just it's insane to me. Again, respect him. I love the way he operates in press conferences with his teams. I was saying teams, no shade there. But they were like, we almost looked around and got away from who we are. It's kind of a paraphrasing of what they said. Iowa has to know who they are when they go to Hilton Coliseum. And they have to be so into what the mission is, what the game plan is. And again, I'm not even saying you go out there and you guarantee a win. They lock in and control the controllables. Because again, Iowa State, it seems like Iowa State doesn't miss anymore whatsoever. They're active on the glass. They have 4 or 5 shooters on the floor at all time, and Jefferson's been spectacular. Lipsy, we all know. Momcilovic. I would have been close.
Those 3 are honestly one of the best big 3 in the country right now.
Undisputed.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And again, that's why, like, I hesitate to try to, like, yeah, this is important for the state. Everybody likes it, whatever, right? You're not going to find me overreacting, even if Iowa goes out there and they beat them. The only thing I'm going to say is, okay, Iowa's going to have a chance against most everybody that they play.
That's true.
But I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, Iowa's going to go win 15 games of Big Ten play. But I also think you look at some of the scheduling in the future in January and February and some of the environments that they're going to have to go to, and you're going to say, okay, Iowa has experience here. They've lost one. They've won one. They're not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. You can't mark it up as a preseason loss anymore. Yeah. It's at least more of a toss-up at that point.
I was looking at the schedule, too, and I was thinking, like, the stretch after Iowa State, you play Western Michigan, Bucknell, UMass Lowell. The 3 games after that, I think, will be a better indicative of, like, how good this team actually is.
No question.
UCLA at home, at Minnesota, who just knocked off Wisconsin. Yep. Or was it Wisconsin they beat over the weekend? They beat someone.
Yeah, they beat someone.
I was surprised that they won. Indiana. They beat
Indiana.
And Illinois at home. Those 3 games, I think, are better indicative. Just because when you play Michigan State, Purdue, and Iowa State, it's just like they're so talented. They're Final Four contenders. You know, if you can stay with them and potentially get a win if Iowa State's having an off day, like, huge, right? Yeah. Huge notch for your resume, but you shouldn't expect that.
You can't overreact. Like, and again, I get people overreacting to football because, look, trust me, you guys know me. I know I tend to, I say my mind, speak it. I'm much more patient when it comes to basketball and the process. You have to be. The important thing is getting to the tournament and playing your best basketball at the right time and feeling like you have a chance. Yeah. Going into 3 of the toughest arenas in college basketball, not just in the the Big 10, Big 12, in college basketball.
That's true.
You can't just freak out about it. And that's why I thought Ben's approach was very endearing. I thought it was 100% spot on. Can't overreact. You can hate the feeling, and it's not okay to have the feeling, but you can't let the wheels fall off because you go out there and get blown out by 20 against, again, a top 5, top 10 team in America in their home court when every single person there, outside of maybe your parents and your friends that got the extra tickets, are rooting against you.
It's a long season, both for the players and for the AP poll voters. Before we start wrapping things up
Transition.
Here.
Yeah. Roast you a little bit?
It's time to get roasted. I've been getting plenty of that online, at least in the preseason and some of the early polls. And so I want to give you guys a chance. This you're seeing on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. I've got my full personal top 25 out that was submitted as part of the Associated Press polls. And so I want to give Mike and David a chance to ask any questions or critique where they want. I put Iowa State at number 4 after beating Purdue. For me, Duke, Arizona, and Michigan and what they've done so far, I thought that those guys were the clear top 3, and you could almost throw a dart and decide who's number 1 among those 3. I put Duke just because of how impressed I have been with Michigan State. They got a few wins outside of that are ranked wins as well, but that Michigan State win, I think, put it over the top, and that's why I put Duke number 1.
You want to go ahead?
Well, I was just going to say, and I've been mainly just following Iowa, but I looked at Duke's wins, and the past 3, they got 3 ranked wins in a row, don't they? Just coming into this week.
Duke's
super impressive.
They've got Arkansas and Florida, and then Michigan State were their 3 wins, and they also beat Kansas early in the year, who's been up and down. They've had some injuries to Darren Peterson, but Kansas also a number 24 team when they beat him. Beat Texas as well, who is okay right now, but still a Power 5 win.
But I guess when you look at the top 4 teams, they've all got multiple like high major wins, ranked wins. And I think you're splitting hairs when you're picking a top team. I know, David, you said Michigan, Iowa State are your top 2.
I think Owen got the top 4 teams right.
Yeah. I personally like Arizona, too.
I think you can make the case for everyone in the top 4. I think after that, there's at least a little bit of a drop.
Iowa State had 1 voter put them number 1. I think it was Maryland's local reporter, I believe, put them at number 1. And then everybody else was kind of, split between those 3. I think I was only one of 7 who put Duke number 1, and the rest were, I think, I forget now who had the most, but Michigan and Arizona had the.
I just look at that Michigan stretch in that tournament when they just shellacked everybody. It wasn't even just about that, but the game was over within 15, 20 minutes. And they still put up 110 points. Like, they're so balanced. They're coached incredibly well. I think again, Arizona's up there too because I really like the makeup of their team. But again, I mean, I guess I'm biased because it's Big Ten, and then obviously, I'm an Iowa State lover, so I'd put Iowa State at 2.
Okay.
I think what Otzelberger's done has been really impressive. I know people talk about, they fade over the course of the season, injuries happen. I don't care. I'm talking about right now. This is not a future projection. That's what some people, I think, lose sight of. I think Iowa State deserves to be ranked number 2 right now based on quality resumes. I'm very curious about your take on Gonzaga because I feel like that's, of the top 10, maybe even top 15, I feel like that's probably the biggest wild card.
Sure. And they certainly did draw some question marks after the way that they got beat by Michigan. And that's kind of one of those games where you start to question, okay, is Michigan that good or is Gonzaga that mid? Like, where does it lie? And I guess for me, I'm like, my internet's going a little slow. I was trying to pull up Gonzaga's schedule, but they just kicked the crap out of Kentucky last week, which preseason I was really high on Kentucky, and they have not proven it at all so far. Kentucky has looked terrible. So, if you want, I guess I still call that kind of a quality win. You're still beating a lot of really, talented players out there, if nothing else.
You beat Alabama, too.
Yep.
I mean, you go into Rupp. If you go into Rupp and you beat Kentucky, it's a quality win.
Right.
Like it almost, I hate to say it, but it almost doesn't matter if they're ranked or not at that point. It's a quality win because you know what type of atmosphere it's going to have. I guess the only other
beat Creighton early in the year.
The only other big gripe that I would have is why I personally probably would have put Iowa in 24 to 20, 23 to 25.
So with Iowa, I was like, with the way that their schedule shook out early in the year, again, not much for quality wins over the first, 6 games. And I kind of said all along, if they're undefeated and they beat Ole Miss, I'll put them in the top 25. And I did. I put them at number 25 in those polls. And then if they would have kept things a little more competitive with Michigan State, if that was within a 10-point loss, I probably would have still kept them in the polls. But the way that they got beat so badly by Michigan State, I was just like, I don't really want to put them in the polls this week. I just felt like there were a lot of poll making is about not necessarily about this one team, but what's this other team done compared to what they have
done. Absolutely.
And that Ole Miss win doesn't look as great. I think they have 3 or 4, maybe even 5 losses on the season so far.
So Iowa still, to me, has something to prove before I can really justify putting them back at the poll. But yeah, I mean, if again they keep it tight with Iowa State, that could prove something, and they'll get a few wins after that. So they'll be back in before too long.
Love the quality loss argument, right? If Iowa lose by 5, we're putting them back in the top 25.
Kind of. I do still look at that a little bit, yeah. But I was surprised that they even moved up in the coaches poll to number 23, and they're still the first team outside of the top 25 in the Associated Press.
So, I guess this is just me kind of analyzing your thought process as you go into a poll, because I do think, again, another wild card team to me is probably Kansas. Because talking about Darren Pearson, if people don't know who he is, you're going to find out who he is pretty soon, because he's the number 1 overall pick.
Hasn't he missed some games, too?
He has, he's had some injury issues.
Yes, and that's been the big reason. So that's where I was going. How far do you drop them when you know a guy of that caliber has been hurt, but it's not again, it's different if the guy, God forbid, and suffers a season-ending injury, because then you have to take them totally out of the equation. But if you're talking about a guy who's day-to-day or week-to-week, how much do you really want to drop them off like that?
I think I had them out of my top 25 when they were 3-2 to start this season and had some bad losses to Duke and North Carolina. But they, in my estimation, worked their way back in. They beat Tennessee when they were 17th. Tennessee still, not sure. I dropped them out of my top 25 because they've lost 3 in a row now.
I would have done the same thing.
They beat Notre Dame, who's okay. They beat Tennessee. They, again, kept it within 5 of UConn. I think UConn's really an outstanding team. They beat Mizzou by 20, who I had in my top 25 for a couple weeks this year. So Kansas is a team where I'm like, I still don't know what they will be down the road, and if Peterson can stay healthy. But based on some quality losses and some Power 5 wins, I was like, all right, they deserve a spot in there. What I always say, that people I think maybe don't understand sometimes about the AP top 25 is you're voting based on what has happened, not on what you think is going to happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Except for the first 2 weeks of the season, because
basically,
right? Because in your preseason and when everyone's playing nobodies and bye games, it's you're projecting a little bit, right? I still think this team is good, because I think early in the season I thought
there's not
Ole
many
Miss
wins
was pretty
to judge
good.
on, yeah.
They've lost 4 straight. But then at some point you got to make that switch, and it's about right now, where it's like, let's see what your resume looks like.
And I had somebody reply to one of my posts because last week I left St. John's out and I put Iowa in, and somebody was like, "Oh, St. John's will beat Iowa by 20," and I'm like, "Probably. I think you're probably right." But I also think that, like, they haven't proven that so far. They have very few quality wins. They just beat Ole Miss as well, and some. Again, losses to quality teams, but still it's like they were not worthy that time to be a top 25 team. And so do I think that in the future that would be the case? Maybe so, but you've got to judge it based on what has happened, not on what is possibly going to happen.
That's exactly it, because that's the difference between like Vegas and the actual rankings. There's power ratings and rankings. Like there might be the most powerful team in college football, and that means they'd be favored against every team in the country, right? They might be ranked third in the AP, but that doesn't matter to Vegas.
For all my Nebraska haters out there, I just want to make sure that they see them at number 19 in the rankings right now.
I was going to give you a little shout out because I know you you know what's great about this, though, is the fact that I might not be the most hated Iowa media guy about Nebraska anymore. So thank you for taking off my plate.
I'm happy to take it.
I got the turncoat arguments, the memes made of me. For people who don't know, I went to Nebraska, and the second I left and announced I'm going to Iowa, all the Iowa people hated me, and all the Nebraska people hated me for leaving to go into a rival. All the Iowa people are saying, "Why do we have a Nebraska alum coming to cover our team?" Well, hopefully it's worked out a little bit. But so thank you for taking that title off my plate.
Happy
I
to
appreciate
carry the
it.
baton. Yeah, Nebraska can say what they want. But I will say, too, and I can make this clear, that it's like I have strong feelings about Nebraska football. The rest of the Nebraska athletic department, I'm pretty cool with. I like Fred Hoiberg a lot. They've got some Iowans on that team. Like, I'm happy to hope they do well in basketball. I like their softball, volleyball teams are kind of fun to root for. So I've got no problem with Nebraska outside of the football team.
So you're hoping they finally win an NCAA tournament game? They still haven't won one, right?
They look like, it's the only team in Power 5 that's never won.
I'd love to see Hoiberg do that, honestly.
I think they will. Like, they are good enough. Now, they've had a couple of bad injury luck so far this season, but like they're right now, based on what I've seen, again, we all know it depends on the draw. Like it really does. I mean, I'll even go back to when Iowa was a 2 seed in the tournament. That Oregon team was the only team in the first round that did not play a game because I think they were going to play VCU and the game got canceled due to COVID. So they got extra scout in Iowa, they got extra rest, and let's face it, from a schematic and X's and O's and matchup standpoint, I thought that'd be one of the worst matchups Iowa could have faced because of how just freakishly athletic they were.
Pac-12 was
and
always
they're all
underseeded.
Like 6'5" to 6'8" guys that could run, jump, shoot, rebound, and push the ball in transition.
Some of these teams I have at the bottom, like the bottom 5 is always like kind of a crapshoot based on like some good teams who you think might be all right. Oklahoma State I've been high on for a while. They're still undefeated right now, but still have not cracked the top 25 overall. Seton Hall has been a huge surprise. I think maybe the poorest team in the Big East. Pardon me.
Is that
they've done well so far. Texas Tech.
Shaheen Holloway there at Seton Hall? Yeah, he's a really good coach.
Yeah, he's great.
I'm not surprised. It's his alma mater too, I believe. So I think there's a little. We all know there's added motivation.
He was the one who brought St. Peter's to the how far did they go? Elite 8.
Elite 8.
Yeah, a couple years ago, and kind of struggled so far at Seton Hall, but this year might be turning it around. So, all right. Well, we just wanted to pick some holes in Owen's AP poll, and we can do that hopefully on some future editions.
It was absolutely perfect, Owen. You did a great job.
Pristine takes all around. Thank you. All right. Well, we do want to thank David Eickholt for joining us on this episode of Eye on the Hawks. If you want to follow us, again, you can watch every episode on YouTube, and you can download through Spotify and all the podcasting platforms, and we're going to have coverage over the next couple days, including some, hopefully, reaction from the game over in Ames, some weather I know that's going to be coming into Iowa, so we'll see what the presence looks like for the Eye on the Hawks crew over at
Tampa's looking pretty good right now, I'm not going to lie.
Tampa is looking good, too, for later this month. So we'll have some football podcast to tease up as well. So, again, for David, Mike, and the folks behind the desk, I'm Owen Sebring. We'll see you again next time on Eye on the Hawks.
At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.